it out that the sun shines down its power to all the world and makes the wind blow strong as it will. I wonder how gentle rains can fall upon the land, so lovely earth can stay lovely still. Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the 569th edition of Energy Week with George Harvey and Tom Fennell. Tom, unfortunately, is not with us today. He needed sleep. So I have excused him and said that I would do the show by myself. Okay, this show is a news aggregation from the 11th of April, I guess. I didn't put in the dates. From the 11th of April till the 18th, that is today, 10th of April until the 17th. Today is the 18th. So we have it starting on Thursday, the 17th of April, and here I am, getting lost. Tom should have helped me. Starting on the 10th of April, which is a Thursday, leading up to the 17th, which is yesterday, a Wednesday, 7 days. These are all taken from my blog, geoharvey.com, and you can go there, geoharvey.com. There's also a couple of links on this page, if you're looking at it on a computer, that you can click on. One of them will get you to the website that Tom and I usually use for setting the show up so we can get our acts together to discuss things. The other one is a downloadable file, which is just what's at that particular site. And that site will, or either of those, or the geoharvey.com, you can get links to the original articles that I'm going to be talking about. And at geoharvey.com, I should mention, it's every day, and it's usually 15 articles a day. So you're going to have to click on the date of the article, and then make sure that you go through the 15 or so, sometimes as few as 11 news articles that are for that date. So we're starting on the 10th. I better double check that. I'm being kind of. We're starting on the 11th, and we go to the 17th. And on the 11th, we have an article from a publication called Energy Monitor. And I'm starting with a picture of a sign at the Chernobyl exclusion zone. The title of this article is Nuclear Energy, Now an Obstacle to Delivering Net Zero. And this is quoting a person who is Director of Policy at Greenpeace. Nuclear energy provides about 25% of the world's low-carbon electricity. However, Greenpeace Director of Policy Doug Parr said, quote, "Nuclear power can't bridge the gap between anything and anything. It is too slow, it is too expensive, it is a massive distraction," end quote. Now, this brings up something that I've been telling people for quite a while. In my experience, there are three different kinds of numbers associated with nuclear power. The first kind is accurate. The other two, obviously, if I'm making that distinction, are not accurate. The first kind pertains to things that are simple engineering calculations. For example, how much energy can you expect out of a nuclear reactor design? If the people who have submitted the design say that it's 900 megawatts, then it's going to be 900 megawatts. Probably it would do a little bit more, but they're going to ask for 900 megawatts for licensing, and if that's what they ask for, that's what they're going to deliver. The second kind of number, in my experience, is off by an order of, by a factor of 2 or more. And that is numbers that relate to the cost of something and the time that it takes to produce something. For example, the reactors at Vogtle in Georgia were originally projected, as I recall, to cost $12 billion. And they were supposed to be put up over a period that, again, as I recall, was 6 years. It might have been 8, but it was in that neighborhood. The eventual cost of those 2 reactors that would cost $12 billion was over $32 billion. So it was almost 3 times as much. The time that it took was about double the amount of time that they originally projected. So that is a problem. The third kind of number pertains to safety, and specifically to safety analysis, because safety analysis has to be done before a plant can be built. Before a design can have its first instance built, there has to be safety analysis done that will predict how likely it is for that particular design to have a catastrophic meltdown. Any kind of meltdown. I shouldn't have said catastrophic. This is what's called a core damage event, and most core damage events have not been terribly serious, although some of them are. The likelihood of a core damage event when the original designs were put into place was 1 in 10,000 years. Now, that is one in 10,000 reactor years. So if you have 10 reactors, you would expect to have 1 meltdown every 1,000 years. If you have 100, you would expect 1 meltdown in 100 years. If you have 1,000, you would expect 1 meltdown in 10 years. What happened over the course of time was the original projections of 1 in 10,000 years were extended as more reactors became safer. And then they were extended again. So the most recent reactors we have operating, out of the 400 and some that we've got operating worldwide, have the likelihood of core damage event being 1 in 50,000 years. Now, if you put this all together in the 25,000 or so reactor years that we've had, you would expect 1 core damage event, 1 meltdown, probably a partial meltdown. But instead of that, we had 1 at Chernobyl that we know of. We had 1 at 3 Mile Island, but we also had 1 at Fermi. Fermi 1 melted down near Detroit. We had what is called it's an experimental salt reactor in Simi Valley, California, near Los Angeles. And the reason I'm including that, I'm just talking about reactors here that are delivering electricity to the grid, not military reactors, not experimental reactors, reactors that are actually delivering electricity. And the one at Simi Valley was delivering electricity to the grid. Okay, that's 4. There were 3 in Japan at Fukushima Daiichi. Then there was 1 at in Czechoslovakia at Jaslevská Bohunice, 2 on separate occasions at Saint-Laurent in France, 1 at Chapel Cross, and these are the ones that we know about. I would expect that Russia might have had meltdowns that we aren't told about. But that means that those projections are off by an order of magnitude, and that's not good. But basically, what it comes to is, if you want a reactor, if you want a source of electricity that's going to be reliable and inexpensive, it turns out the best way to do that is probably either solar with batteries or wind with batteries, and that was brought into sharp focus by NextEra Energy, which in June of 2022 came up with its projection of where it was going to be putting money, and it basically said nuclear is too expensive, takes too long. We would expect even small modular reactors to come in at 10.5 cents per kilowatt 10.5 cents per kilowatt hour, and we can compare that to what it called near firm solar and near firm wind. Firm meaning backed up with batteries, and near firm means that it's backed up sufficiently that it's, in their words, as reliable as nuclear for delivering electricity on demand at peak demand periods. So they're saying that near firm solar and near firm wind are as good. And since it's battery backup and batteries respond instantly, basically, it's going to be better than nuclear, but it's going to cost less than 4 cents per kilowatt hour as opposed to 10.5. So that's a long explanation. Sorry it's so long. We'll go on to something else. Here we have a picture of, this is from PV Magazine USA, sheep grazing at a solar farm. I've been working, by the way, recently with an article from Green Energy Times about cattle grazing at a solar farm. And the supports for the solar have to be very high and also very strong to withstand the rubbing against them that cattle will do. The article is titled "Virginia Governor Signs Legislation Establishing Community Solar." Governor Glenn Youngkin signed legislation that creates a community solar program in Virginia, enabling up to 200 megawatts of shared power projects between two major utilities that serve the state. Virginia targets 30% of renewable energy by 2030 and 100% by 2050. And I think we should just go on from that because that's pretty self-explanatory. Okay, the next picture we have is a solar system, a solar system out west in California. This is from Electrek. Avangrid broke ground on its first solar farm in California. That's the title. Avangrid is one of the largest clean energy operators in the United States, with 8.7 gigawatts of installed. What's a gigawatt, Tom? It's a bigawatt. 8.7 gigawatts of installed renewables capacity in the country. Now, it's building its first solar farm in California, the 57 megawatt Camino solar project in Kern County. The company already has 6 wind farms in that state. Okay, we're up to Friday, and this is April, as I said, I failed to put these things in. I do that sometimes. This is Friday, April 12th, and we have a picture of renewable energy in the UK, and this is from Energy Live News. You can see the solar farm with wind turbines in the background and what looks like a slightly tilted chimney, although I don't know what that is. There are other things going on in this, but I'm not sure what they are. Okay, the title is UK renewable boom plunges electricity prices. Wholesale electricity prices in the UK fell sharply in the first quarter of 2024 due to a significant increase in renewable energy production, as reported by Montel Enapsys. The average prices dropped by 22% compared to the previous quarter, with average day-ahead prices close to 64.5 pounds per megawatt hour. And that's not far from what energy is around here, but it's worth noting that it dropped significantly from last year. Okay, our next project to look at here is a solar farm. This is from Clean Technica, and the title is A New Dawn for Solar Cells, 190% quantum efficiency is possible. Okay, I'm not gonna talk about quantum efficiency because it's too confusing. That just happens to be the title, but you'll get it from the synopsis. The Shockley-Queisser limit refers to a theory about the upper limit for PV technology efficiency. The limit has been thought to be 33.7% for quite a while, but researchers at the Fraunhofer Institute for Solar Energy Systems achieved an efficiency of 47.6%, and they are still working to improve efficiency. Now, I should mention, we're going to get back to this in this particular show, so just remember that, and we'll go on to our next article, which is ESG Today, and we have a picture of the NextCamp solar array, which looks pretty big. And the title is U.S. community solar developer Nexamp raises $520 million to accelerate deployment. Nexamp, a developer and operator of distributed solar with storage, announced that it raised $520 million. Proceeds from the financing are to accelerate growth as the company expands into new markets and builds its renewable energy and storage capacity. And I should mention here that the combination of solar and batteries and the combination of wind and batteries are what I had referred to earlier as near-firm solar and near-firm wind. This is really the cheapest energy that we are going to have according to NextEra Energy, which, by the way, by some calculations, is the largest utility in the United States. It owns, as I recall, 7 nuclear power plants. Certainly one of them is Seabrook. So these are people who are apparently not afraid of nuclear energy, and they have some understanding of it. Okay, we're up to Saturday, and this, what is it? I have to scroll back to find the date. This is April 13th. That's right, Saturday the 13th. I remember that day. Okay. We have a picture of the layers in a solar cell. This article is from Clean Technica. This is a schematic of a solar cell, and I want to just mention on this, these different layers are labeled in ways that are, I think, kind of sloppy. The top layer is ITO, which is indium tin oxide, as I recall. Tin is not T, it's SN. We'll see it a little bit lower on the same picture. Below that is zinc oxide. Below that is copper germanium selenium / tin sulfide. And here, tin is properly SN. And the bottom layer is gold. Now, I do want to mention that the gold does not mean that this is going to be an outrageously expensive solar cell, because it might be atomically thin. So it might be that you'd have a large solar panel with $1's worth of gold on it. I don't know. It might be much more expensive, but that's, I just want to mention that. Gold can be delivered in very, very, very thin layers. In fact, the gold cupola in the Montpelier State House is gold. That is covered with gold, and it might be just a few $100s worth of gold because it's gold leaf, very thin. Okay, the title of this is New Material Could Double Output of Solar Panels. This relates back to the article that we were just looking at about more efficient panels. It's the same thing, but it's got more explanation. In a research study published in the journal Science Advances, scientists at Lehigh University say they developed a material that has the potential to drastically increase the efficiency of solar panels. The university said a prototype of the material in a solar cell has an average PV absorption of 80%. Now that means that we could be using solar cells that deliver 80% of the energy that hits it into electricity, where today 20% is not too bad. This means that we could have a solar array that would be only perhaps a third of the size of one that would go out today, and it would have the same amount of energy coming from it. Or if you're going to put out new panels in an old solar farm, you could take the old panels away, recycle them in however way you're going to do that, put in new panels and get 3 times as much electricity. This is a really good move. Now we are up to an article that was from Clean Technica. We have an article from Iberdrola itself, and the picture here is a picture of, it's Iberdrola's picture of wind turbines. I think a kind of a nice picture. The title is Iberdrola's renewable energy production reaches 10-year highs in Spain. Well, they keep installing stuff, so I'd expect it just to go up every year, so it would be a new high every year. Nevertheless, the synopsis says, investments by the Iberdrola company in renewables and a commitment to decarbonization pushed production of clean energy in Spain to a decade high, probably an all-time high. In the first quarter of 2024, the group generated 10,489 gigawatt hours of clean energy, which, by the way, is a lot of energy. It's getting close to, I think, as I recall, getting close to about twice what is needed to power Vermont through a year. Up 19.4%, big jump from the same period last year. Okay. We have an article from Renewable Energy Magazine. Let me put the picture up. This is a picture of making solar cells, solar cell development. And for some reason that I don't understand, this comes from the Oregon Department of Transportation, but that's what it is. The title is, Solar is the largest source of new generating capacity for the 6th month in a row. Now this is referring to United States electricity generating additions. A review by Sunday Campaign of data released recently by the Federal Energy Regulatory Commission, which is called FERC, shows that for the 6th month in a row, solar provided more new U.S. electrical generating capacity than any other energy source. It was 83.64% of the total. And in case you want to know, of the rest of the total, it was almost all wind power. There was a little bit of gas capacity added, but it was almost zero, very close to zero. So we are up to Sunday, April 14th, and we have an article from The Bengaluru Live. What a name. And this picture is a solar power plant in Maharashtra. And the title is, India added a record 18 gigawatts of renewable energy capacity in FY24. FY being fiscal year. And the synopsis here says, the fiscal year FY24 ended in March, as I recall. India added a record renewable capacity of 18.48 gigawatts in 2023 to 2024. This is up 21% from the 15.27 gigawatts the year before. The Ministry of New and Renewable Energy data shows this. India's installed renewable capacity came to 143.64 gigawatts as of March 31st, 2024, and that does not count 47 gigawatts of large hydropower. So I should have put a note down saying how much the United States has, but I didn't. I think India probably has significantly more than the United States, but I might be wrong. Okay, we have an article from Clean Technica, and this article is about phytomines. We have a picture of phytomines. Phytomining, courtesy of ARPA-E. The title is Nickel Mining Plants to Juice EV Battery Supply Chain. The EV battery supply chain has its pitfalls. The environmental cost of nickel mining happens to be one of them. A solution to that may have emerged in the form of a new U.S. phytomining startup called Metal Plant, M-E-T-A-L plant. Phytomining is the practice of growing plants for their metal content. I was first made aware of this when I was in college taking biology, plant biology, and the teacher told us that there was a particular horsetail plant, one species that grew in Sweden, among other places. And somebody had figured out that there was a certain amount of gold in a field somewhere, but it was in particles too small to mine. And the way that would normally be mined is you would just take the earth, gold and what wasn't gold, and smelt it all and get the gold out that way. But they figured out that it would be much cheaper to plant the earth with horsetails and just harvest them as a regular crop. You can see here the bio-ore is the plant coming up. That doesn't look at all like a horsetail, but nevertheless, it's a plant. A horsetail is a plant. And by a combination of hydrometallurgy and pyrometallurgy, the first being dissolving things in liquids based on water, the second one being melting, burning them, melting them down, they can get the metal. And what happened was the horsetails would be burned. They'd be harvested, dried, and burned. And then the ashes would be smelted, and they'd get, in those days, it was several $100s worth of gold, more than an ounce of gold per acre. It was enough to make it worthwhile. So that was from Clean Technica. Now we have another article from Clean Technica and a picture of a Tesla. Now at this point, Tom would ask if it has a grid, and I'd say, well, that looks a little bit like a grid, but it's not. That is not like a Tesla I have seen. They usually, the ones I've seen don't have a black thing that looks almost like a grid in front, but that's neither here nor there. This is a Tesla charging in Munich. Good news about electric cars. They're driving down electricity rates. In a study commissioned by the Natural Resources Defense Council, an analysis by Synapse found that between 2011 and 2021, electric car drivers contributed $3.12 billion more than their associated costs, which drove down monthly rates for, quote, all consumers, end quote. So I'm not going to go into the details of why that is. You can go to that date. Let's see, what date was it? It was the 14th, and look at Clean Technica and find more details on that. But this is an article that has a bunch of details. The important thing is the addition of electric cars on the grid can drive electricity prices down. And that's without a whole lot of bidirectional charging. This is without the cars giving electricity from their batteries to the grids. Anyway, we are up to Monday, April 15th, and we have pictures of transmission towers. Let me put those up for you. This is from PV Tech. U.S. grid connection backlog dominated by solar grows to 2.6 terawatts in 2023. A terawatt is 1,000 gigawatts. And at this point, Tom would chime in, a gigawatt is a bigawatt, baby. The grid connection backlog in the US grew by 27% year on year in 2023, with about 2.6 terawatts of generation and storage capacity now seeking interconnection. As of the end of 2023, the total capacity in queue was more than twice the current US generating capacity of 1.28 terawatts. Sorry for all my throat clearing. Now the story here is solar power, wind power. It's also going to include other types of power, but the backlog that is produced of renewable energy to provide the grid with power is equal to more than double the amount of capacity that we have. And you know, nuclear capacity has the highest capacity factor in the United States at a little over 90%. Solar power is very often under 20%, but wind power is usually, well, a third, 35%. It can be over 50% for certain offshore wind farms. But the point is 2.6 terawatts of renewable energy, not batteries, because batteries will deliver 100% whenever you want them to, if they have the energy in them to deliver. 2.6 terawatts is probably equal to, close to, considering that there's a lot of batteries in that, or slightly less than the total amount of electric generating capacity that we have in the country in terms of the amount that it can deliver. And we're talking about a huge backlog of these energy capacity systems being prevented from connecting because of the limitations of our transmission system. I'm going to do a study on this because we should be able to deliver distributed energy in any place in the United States that is mostly local. And so that shouldn't be. I think, honestly, the reason why the transmission system has not been beefed up is that people don't have the imagination to see that we don't need to bring electricity from someplace hundreds of miles away to use it here. We should be able to generate it here. Anyway, that's my opinion. But that backup is a real thing, and if we can get the transmission systems going, it'll make a difference. The next picture we have is a picture from Adani Energy, and I'm going to put that up. This is from Adani Green Energy. It's a picture of a solar farm. That is one big solar farm. It just kind of goes on for almost to the horizon. And the title is Adani Green Adani Green records 35% growth in operational capacity in FY24. Again, this is up to the end of March. Adani Green Energy Limited recorded a 35% increase in its operational capacity with the addition of solar and wind power projects in the financial year 2024. The company aims for growth in its renewable capacity to 45,000 megawatts, that's 45 gigawatts, by 2023, which is 10% of India's renewable energy target. So this one company, Adani, which, by the way, is belongs to is run by a man whose name is Adani, and who has made himself from not a rich man into a rich man, and who has a home. As I recall, this man's home cost $1 billion and occupies a full block in India. His aim is to provide 10% of India's electricity, with almost all of it being renewable, which is kind of impressive if you think about it. Okay, our next item, we have a picture of a solar farm, different solar farm than the one we just were looking at. This is a copyright picture from Conrad Energy, but apparently it was distributed so that it could be used without payment. This is from Farmers Weekly, and the title is How Farmers Can Thrive in the Evolving Energy Landscape. And the synopsis reads, in an era marked by climate concerns and renewable energy ambitions, the agricultural sector is at the forefront of innovation and adaptation. As the world seeks sustainable solutions to meet growing energy demands, the roles of managing agricultural land are expanding. And you know, I most of my childhood I was either in Illinois or New Hampshire, but I was always in an area that had farms. In Illinois, I lived in one city and 2 towns, and I was never more than a walk from cornfields. In New Hampshire, we were about a half a mile from the nearest neighbor. So, you know, again, that was pretty rural. And I was always aware of local farmers and the fact that their lives were not easy. And the thing about renewable energy is that it gives farmers access to incomes that they otherwise would not have. And a lot of them want to have solar farms or wind on their land. And with the advances of agrivoltaic farms and so forth, they can get that, and in some cases increase their agricultural production in the process. So I don't want to hold them up in that, and especially considering that it will also do some good elsewhere in the environment. Okay, we're up to Tuesday, April 16th, and we have a picture of wind turbines. This particular picture is from Dan Myers on Unsplash. This is a wind farm. The article comes from Renews. Unsplash, by the way, is a place that you can get, you have to pay attention to what you're doing, but you can get photographs that you can just use for free, and lots of them. Okay, the title of this is CIP Bags 1.3 Gigawatt U.S. Onshore Wind Portfolio. Now, I'll just read the synopsis. Copenhagen Infrastructure Partners, that's CIP, has acquired Liberty Renewables Company, which has a 1.3 gigawatt or 1,300 megawatt portfolio of onshore wind projects in the state of New York. The projects are scheduled to be built to come online during the years 2026 through 2030. Hoffman Falls Wind will be the first project developed. So now you know as much about it as I do. Okay, the next item we've got is from Renews again, and we have a picture. This is interesting, I think, installing a rotor on a wind turbine. They have to have cranes that are just gigantic to do this. And I don't know, but I think that might be the head of a guy kind of sticking out with a helmet on. We might see the head and shoulders between the rotor and the nacelle. And if that's the case, it would give you an idea of how big this thing is. And if it is a guy, then it's a realistic view. The thing that impresses me about these things is they've got to get all these bolt holes lined up. And it just seems like a lot of work. But anyway, as I said, this is from Renews. The title is Global Wind Installations in 2023 Set New Record. The global wind industry installed a record 117 gigawatts of new capacity in 2023, making it the best year for new wind energy so far. Total installations of 117 gigawatts in 2023 represents a 50% year-on-year increase from 2022, according to a report from Global Wind Energy Council. So this is a really huge increase in the amount of installation, and it's a big increase in the amount of installed capacity total, and that I think is remarkable. Okay, I'm going to go on to the next item here. This picture is a picture of oil rigs that have spent they've lived out their lives in places like the North Sea, and they've been pulled into a firth in Scotland, and I forget which particular firth this is. I think I would remember if it were the Firth of Forth, but it is one of those bodies of water that is just the widening of a river that gets wider and wider and wider as it goes out. And it reminds me a little bit, oddly enough, of when I was a kid. I would see hundreds of Liberty ships in the Hudson River, mothballed. They were just parked there in case they would ever be needed, and of course they weren't for the most part. But these are oil drilling rigs and oil extraction rigs that have been mothballed, and at some point they're going to have to be decommissioned because they're probably never going to go back to sea. They might, but in any event they're going to have to be decommissioned. This is from Clean Technica. The title is U.S. Energy Department takes action to protect taxpayers from offshore oil and gas decommissioning costs. Okay, they have to be decommissioned. Who's going to pay for that? The Interior Department announced a final rule from the Bureau of Ocean Energy Management to protect taxpayers from covering the costs that should be borne by the oil and gas industry when offshore platforms require decommissioning. And I don't know. I know that in some places in the United States, when an oil well goes dry, the U.S. government reimburses the people extracting oil from it for the fact that it goes dry. So it might be that the standard way to decommission these things is taxpayer expense. Okay, we are up to Wednesday, April 17th, and we have a picture here of a pickup truck. And it's a kind of a nice pickup truck. It's a nice big pickup truck, by the way. I came across one of these things being charged in Brattleboro and talked to the woman who was driving it. She thought it was just the loveliest thing she could imagine. And I got to tell you, it was too big for me. But here we go. This is from Clean Technica. And the title of this article is The Safest Truck in the USA, the safest pickup truck, is the Rivian R1T. EVs have innate safety advantages, plural. It is also easier to design them to be safe in multiple ways. Yeah. Clean Technica has a new report on the subject, EV Safety Advantage. Apparently, It already needs updating because the Rivian R1T just set a new high bar for safety among pickup trucks. Now, Rivian, I think a lot of people don't know anything about Rivian. I'm going to put this up again. If you look very carefully at the front of that truck, you may see that the headlight has an odd shape. It's kind of oblong. It's like somebody has split a circle and put straight lines between the halves to make an oblong thing. But this is a big truck. Rivian is a real company. You can order them and buy them and drive them and stuff like that. And I want to comment just for a moment about the relative safety of electric vehicles versus gasoline-powered cars. The thing that people should remember about gasoline-powered cars is that gasoline leaks. I've seen a number of occasions where people I knew had cars with gas tanks that had pinholes in them. And if the gas tank was filled above a certain level, the gas tank would just drip gasoline. Now, if you think about that, that means that if you parked such a car in a garage, you'd have gasoline on the floor in the garage, and it would vaporize. If you vaporize, and I've looked this up to find out what the actual number is, and I see a huge spread, but how many sticks of dynamite are the equivalent of one gallon of gasoline vaporized? And the range that I've seen is from 20 sticks of dynamite to 1 gallon of gasoline to 80 sticks of dynamite in 1 gallon of gasoline. And I will tell you, I wouldn't want a cup of gasoline vaporized in my garage. And I have seen a number of cars on interstate highways pulled over and burning fiercely. Gasoline is not safe, in my opinion. It also happens to be carcinogenic, and people who are exposed to gasoline fumes a lot have got problems from health issues that could come along with that. The electric vehicles have a reputation for catching fire because of the batteries, which have lithium in them. And lithium batteries do burn fiercely if they are a certain kind of lithium battery that is ignited in a certain kind of way. And the certain kind of way could be anything that just pops a hole in that battery. The likelihood of a car or truck having a fire because of such a thing is very low compared to gasoline-powered vehicles. And the information that I've seen out of the insurance industry is that you are about 40 times as likely or more to have a fire in a vehicle because of gasoline than you are because of lithium. And that's just one kind of lithium. There are a number of different approaches to lithium. Lithium-ion batteries, the old kind that had cobalt and nickel and so forth, are one thing, but there are newer batteries of a design called lithium ferrophosphate. LiFePO4 is another way. It's LiFePO4, lithium iron phosphate. PO4 is phosphate. And those batteries apparently don't burn, or they don't burn hot, or they are difficult to catch fire. So the introduction of lithium ferrophosphate batteries is a good thing. Now, Tesla sells cars with lithium-ion batteries in the United States. They sell cars with lithium ferrophosphate batteries in China. I think they're switching to lithium ferrophosphate, but they don't feel strongly compelled to do so because the cars just don't get into fires all that often. they're far safer in that respect than gasoline-powered cars. That's the information I see coming from the insurance company. Oh, our next picture is fun. This is a boat. Tom loves boats, and you know, he would have quite a lot of fun with this. This is a 2017 picture of a boat called Energy Observer. I think I remember when this boat was first launched, and it doesn't look quite like that in other pictures. And part of the reason for that is because they have different kinds of apparatus that are put into use at different times. And I've seen wind turbines on this thing. They're an unusual low turbine that can catch breezes at sea. But this is from a publication called Canary Media, which I have a certain amount of respect for. And the title is, "This Boat Runs on 100% Renewables. Can it help clean up bigger ships?" The Energy Observer has sailed the world as a floating lab of wind emission technologies. Now, its owners want to apply what they've learned to dirty freighters. The boat's fossil-free generators and storage can provide all the energy it needs for weeks on end. So this boat has been sailing for 7 years. And just the purpose of the boat is just to go from one place to another to prove that you can do it on renewable energy. And of course, if you look at this, let me put it back up. If you look at the boat again, you can see that the upper parts of it are just covered with photovoltaic cells or photovoltaic panels. And it's actually, I would think, probably fairly comfortable inside. It's kind of wide. It's a catamaran, so it's not going to roll very easily. It's going to be pretty steady on the sea. If you've got big waves, it can roll, you know, a lot, depending upon how you're handling the boat. We're seeing this from the stern, and it looks like it's got a small boat of some kind hanging under the solar panels on the stern. I don't know that that's what that is, but it kind of looks like that. The shipping industry is one of the most polluting industries we've got. They're using bunker oil, number 6 fuel oil, and so forth, to move ships from one place to another. They do this with diesel engines in many cases that are absolutely gigantic. If you took the cylinder for one of those engines and laid it out on the ground with no top or bottom, it would be big enough for a person to crawl into, and big enough that a person could camp out in it, really, because I forget what the diameter of those things is, but it's big. And they put out a huge amount of pretty toxic waste, fumes, which are not really regulated very much because they're out at sea. And the regulations that apply from countries only apply in the harbors of those countries. So if you've got some secondary way to move yourself in and out of a harbor, you've got a way to get in and out of a harbor. So you can get away with some pretty bad pollution. Okay, and this boat is interested in, its owners put it together with the idea that it would be used to demonstrate that you can run ships from one place to another. Okay, our last story is from MSN, which is Microsoft, as I understand it. And we have a picture here of Punakha, Bhutan, which is in the Himalayas, kind of at the end of Nepal, at the east end of Nepal. The title for this article is 7 countries generate 100% of their electricity from renewable energy. That's the title. And when they say 100%, they're saying rounded to 100%. 7 countries generate nearly all of their electricity from renewable energy, data shows. Albania, Bhutan, Nepal, Paraguay, Iceland, Ethiopia, and the Democratic Republic of Congo produced over 99.7% of their electricity using solar, wind, hydro, or geothermal power. I remember reading, it might have been about the time this show started being produced, which I think was 2013. Paraguay produced way over 100% of its electricity from renewables, because it produced about 1,000% of what it needed from hydro. And that was on purpose. They knew that they could use the electricity, but they wanted to have a national program of selling electricity to Brazil and Argentina. So they've got hydro that is far in excess of what they need. And actually other countries could do that. Iceland is at 100%. They are requiring their fishing boats to go out on electricity, to stop using diesel for fishing. They're offering to put in, they have offered, I should say, I don't know that the offer is current. They have offered to supply power to Great Britain by putting in a huge, long extension cord from Iceland to Great Britain that would carry maybe a megawatt or two. And they have energy resources that are just astonishing. But I want to point something out here, and that is today in the news, and I will be talking about this next week, one of the things that came up was a study that was done of Alaska and its coastline, and the amount of offshore energy that could be produced from various sources, wave energy, tidal energy, wind energy, and so forth, off the coast. And the amount of energy that was cited was 3.5 terawatts, which is way over 2 times the amount of energy used in the United States. We have got far, far, far more renewable energy than we can use. It's just a matter of putting it all to use. Now, that is the end of Energy Week. I'm going to put up the last slide, if I can figure out where on the screen the cursor is. It says, have an impressively enjoyable week. I'm waving goodbye. I don't think Tom is, because he's not watching. But Tom's cat might be waving goodbye right now. You never can tell. So I hope you come back next week. You all come back now, you hear? And we'll go through it all again. Have a good week. Bye-bye.